Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's Furman Football Weekly with head coach Clay Hendricks. The Paladins coming off a SoCon opening 31-13 win at Samford this past weekend, returning home for family weekend on Saturday to take on ETSU. We'll have all the broadcast information at the end of the press conference. Coach Hendricks joined by Joshua Stone King and Jakeith Hamilton today. As always, we will ask for an opening statement from the head coach. And since he has graced us with his presence finally, we'll let Tom Van Hoy ask this week's first question.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Certainly excited to come back from Birmingham with a win. First conference win, back-to-back road game, tough road trips. That we're able to get it done, so certainly excited about that. I think we're getting better. I do like that part. I think probably no coach or every coach wishes it would maybe move a little faster sometimes than it does as far as the development phase of it. But, I thought, defensively we played really about as well as we could play. You take away a couple of plays, as I said, which you don't get to do. But just, the things we talked about having to do, didn't let them run the football. I think they're really only runs of any significance probably were scrambles. Really good job, I think, 6 maybe of 19 on third and fourth down combined, they were. Certainly had to get after the passer, which we did. I think we had, 7 sacks. Certainly Josh had a big game. Pressuring him a bunch more, a lot of tackles for loss, which again, when I look at what we're doing defensively, I think of the 14 sacks, I think it's spread amongst 10 people. Certainly Josh has had a big part of that, but I also think that what he's doing is going to help create opportunities for some more guys. You'd like to see their production go up a little bit. And, we've been one of the better teams in the country at tackles for loss, and I think we've got 19 guys with a tackle for loss this year. So, we've talked about building depth, trying to get back to where we were, a couple of years ago in that regard. So, really pleased with that. And then offensively, started fast again. For the fourth week, we started fast offensively. I think probably the most disappointing, we're just, I think in all 4 games we've played, we left points on the field. Probably every coach thinks that, but I really feel like we've left some points on the field, which could have made a big difference in all those games, really, just kind of the way the flow of the game went. Trey, I think, is playing at a high level. He's almost 72% of his passes he's completing. He's taking care of the ball. You look back a year ago, it just what killed us, our youth and inexperience, but turning the ball over. Still a little frustrated with the run game, but I also think we've done a good job of taking advantage of people crowding the box on us, and we've shown that we have the ability to hurt you on the perimeter down the field, and Trey's done a good job of that. And then I think probably the biggest thing we got to do, we just got to do – there are times we're not playing very good situational football. I think of 3 different times on offense where we need to line the game for a first down and could have easily gotten it and just didn't get it. One of them would have ended the half or maybe given us a chance to go on a 2-minute drive. One would have ended the game. And then, we had a 3rd and 1, and Trey just needs to hand it off. We do have Reed built in because you have to because they got a guy we can't block, but I'd like to see him hand that ball off and kept us on the field, a little bit more there. And then, and then again, I think we're doing a pretty good job penalty-wise. There are some things we got to continue to clean up, but no, that's a good spot. And then, if you just turn to East Tennessee, I think easily the most complete team we will have played. I'm sure they're feeling it, losing 2 really tough games against 2 really good opponents, in the fourth quarter. And they did a lot of good things to get themselves in position to win both those games, and I'm sure we'll get their best shot. A lot of respect for Coach Healy, the job he does. I don't know Coach real well. I've gotten to know him a little bit. He was the guy that was at Austin Peay, that left before we went there and played that group, I guess, in 19 in the playoffs. It was really a team that he had there, and it was a really talented team. Chad Staggs, defense coordinator, was our defense coordinator here the first 2 years. Patrick Covington, who played for me. Actually, Patrick and I coached the offensive line together at Air Force the first 2 years. So a lot of respect for their staff. As is in college football, A lot of new faces on their roster, a lot of power four guys, good length, good size, speed. And I think really the biggest difference from them from a year ago is just the quarterbacks. Really they were a really good football team a year ago, but they really struggled at quarterback kind of all year. And they've addressed that with the two guys that got playing for them, and it'll certainly be a big challenge for us, to line up against them and play. But we are through. Hadn't been home in a month, so it'll be nice to be in Paladins Stadium and get a chance to honor the 40th anniversary 85 team. I'm excited about that group being back here. So a lot of good things going on. We just got to have a great week of prep to have a chance to go beat a really good East Tennessee team.
So, Coach, through 4 games, anything surprised you about this team maybe you didn't know about as the season began?
No, I mean, I felt, I've told you guys, I felt like in August I went back this morning and watched the East Tennessee game from a year ago, and I really wouldn't do that normally because everything's new. Totally new staff, a lot of new players, schemes are different. I went back just to look at a little bit of personnel, and it's funny, we're about the same team that was playing up there. But just our growth, certainly, experience has made a big difference. I do think, a little more speed, a little more talent than we've had, depth. I think our coaches, have done a really good job of developing guys and bringing them along. And I think we're a little bit of an oddity because we're now a vastly different group from a year ago. Certainly, we have some new faces too. We're disappointed we're not 4-0, but we also know how close we are to not being happy at all. And that's I think that's the nature of college football right now. When you look around, and I looked at that, somebody sent me the Mercer team that won our league, really, really good team a year ago, and Sanford beat them 55-35 at their place. So each week's just a little different. You just got to go play, and this week will be different. They'll challenge us in all 3 phases, and if you don't play well, it's hard to win. And but hoping you take care of the ball better, just efficiency, a lot of things we're doing better. Again, can we just continue to improve?
Josh, I think Caldwell talked about it a little bit earlier this season about some of the changes, to the defense. Can you expound upon that? I mean, you guys are seemingly getting a lot of pressure with just 4 guys up there. Can you talk about the changes, and maybe is that just guys working hard during the off season and beating their guy one-on-one? What's gone into that?
Yeah, well, I think it, compared to last year, the front 4 has definitely a lot more experience going up against guys in our league, and to be able to win the one-on-ones. And I think in spring and then in summer working with our O-line on the one-on-ones and all that kind of stuff, it translated into this season. It just made us better, and then just the pass rush games that Coach Vaughn calls puts us in the best position to make holes in the O-line, and then we can get free and get pressure.
Coach, in the last game, y'all went 4 for 4 in the red zone and held them 0 for 2. Is that something that you really expand on, just the red zone defense and offensive?
Well, it's something we focus on every week. We've been a really good red zone defense. I think it's one of the few things we were pretty good at a year ago was red zone defense. So yeah, it's certainly a big part of our plan each week. Field shrinks. How are you going to attack them? Our kicker's been really good. Now we'd like to score touchdowns, when we get down there. But it is an emphasis, and and I do think a little bit this year that's where we left some points on the field with a couple of turnovers and some different things. So we'll continue to work hard at that.
Hey guys, Caroline with Fox Carolina here. Just for all of you, if you wouldn't mind answering. I know last season maybe wasn't the season that everybody wanted, wasn't up to Furman standards. How is that maybe providing some motivation to get things on the right track this season, especially with the success you've had so far?
Oh, well, yeah. Last season wasn't the best season, and the whole weeks going into practice or going into the games last year, it was just like, oh, here we go again, that kind of thing. And so we don't want to feel that way this year. We worked hard in the offseason, the spring and the summer hit the weight room hard with Coach Novo and on the field getting faster, and then just, the experience as well this year has really helped us a lot.
How about you, Chief?
Piggybacking off what Josh said, just the feeling that we all had last year, we pretty much use it as motivation to come in every week in the off season, in the weight room, to practice, just, coming to work hard and not wanting that same feeling again. So,
yeah, I just say, I knew going in last year we had some unique challenges, losing 41 guys off the team the year before. Never dreamed the number of injuries we'd have. So a really young and inexperienced team got really, really young and even more inexperienced. And then you combine that with not taking care of the ball, turning the ball over, allowing big plays. Just weren't a very good football team. But again, like these guys said, we have done a really good job of retaining guys here. I think when I look at rosters around, I kind of compare from year to year a lot of people we play, and it's kind of shocking the number of people that aren't there that were there a year ago. I think we've done that. When you retain, you got a chance to develop, and we've always said we're truly a developmental program. I think our coaches have done a great job of continuing to develop these guys, and they're just a lot better players now. I think we've recruited well, but we'd like to recruit and play with old guys, and we're playing with older guys. We're still a relatively young group, but we are relatively experienced, and we do have talent, and that's what's unique about our sport too. It's kind of the ultimate team game, and we got guys that like to play together. They play together, and which gives you a chance to have a good team.
And Coach, I want to ask you about the guy to your right here. What kind of season is Joshua having, and how's that helping you guys defensively?
Well, I'll say this. I went back and looked at I nominated him for all conference to start the year. He didn't get a lot of votes, I don't think, but I just saw it in him. I'm an old offensive line coach, and I see these guys a lot. And really, I was really excited about him late last year, and he missed the last 4 games, with being sick. And, so I just have seen it. He's a guy, he's got power, he's got speed. And he's also, we got other guys that are capable, and I think he'd be the first one to tell you if they only got one pass rusher, there's an old saying, when you got one, you got none. When you got one guy, it's a whole lot easier to deal with him. But, he's still getting a lot of people's attention, but he's still been really productive. And, and I think even just being blocked a kick the other day, and then batted the last ball that got intercepted, to kind of end the game. So, no, I'm glad he's playing for the Paladins.
Joshua, your thoughts?
I'm glad I'm playing for the Paladins too.
Jakeith, in 15 years here, this is the deepest and most talented wide receiver group that I've seen. A lot of years where, there's one standout guy and maybe it was easy to focus on. That's not necessarily the case with this group. With that means that the ball gets spread around a lot. So one guy's not going to get a ton of receptions. Just from your standpoint, talk about the wide receiver room, how all of that plays into the offensive game plan every week, and why you guys are such as a group, a big weapon that other teams have to deal with.
I feel like just having a great receiver coach like Coach does it, just prepping us for every moment, every game. And I feel like the whole receiver corps is just full of people who's hungry for the ball. And if we have a game where we don't have the ball, we still do our job, because we feel like just because you don't have 100 yards don't mean you didn't have a good game. We're all about doing our 111, like Coach is saying. So I feel like Coach Does It has prepped us and got our mind right to have good games and just be ready for our moment.
Joshua and Jakeith, just to share with you, you guys probably didn't know that we have some standards here that we employ on who we invite to Monday press conference. If you have 2 sacks, you get an automatic berth. If you catch a touchdown pass, so that's why you guys are here. Just wanted to let you guys know that we just don't invite anybody. So anyway, that's right. Well, thank you. We're glad to have you. Josh, wanted to ask you, What goes into being an accomplished pass rusher? I can begin to think strength and hustle, technique, athleticism, experience, all those things. But if you had to give an evaluation of what makes you effective as a pass rusher, where would you start? Maybe list a couple items that how you've developed into a quality pass rusher.
Well, I would say really I kind of started in the spring. Practicing like I'm playing in a game, like going up against our O-line like I'm in a game, going 100%, working different moves because, I mean, you don't want to throw the same move the whole game because the offensive tackle's going to know that and sit on it. So you want to set up your pass rush moves, which this season I've worked on a lot more, just trying to set more pass rush moves up to not seem consistent on one move.
Josh, I was going to ask you this, but Keith can chime in too because it's a team thing. But Raleigh's a captain this year as a sophomore. It's really kind of an unusual thing. That's pretty special to get that honor here as a sophomore. So I can only imagine on Saturday, in addition to being a big play in the game, I mean, I assume you guys are really happy for him as well on that interception return. Can you just speak to who he is and what he means to this team?
Oh yeah, well, Raleigh's a very charismatic guy. Has a lot of energy, brings a lot of energy to the defense, and I think that carries over to the offense during the games and in practice. I mean, we were up, I don't know, it was like 31-7, and he was telling the sideline like it's 0-0. The game's not over yet. We got to finish. So I mean, that's the kind of guy he is, and he just keeps us all locked in and keeps the energy up.
Yeah, piggybacking on what Josh was saying, Riley, he's a great guy on and off the field. He comes to work. He keeps everybody on their toes. Like, he never lets nobody slack off. Like, offense can have a bad drive. He's like, okay, cool, we got your back. So that's what I like about him. And if defense not doing their job, he's going to get on the defense and, fix things. So that's what I like him as a leader doing.
So, Keith, offensively, you guys feel pretty good every time you go out there and feel like you can get it done?
Yes, sir. I just want to thank Coach Roper for, providing a great game plan for us and just trusting in us. And Terry Hedden for, getting the ball out to us, because he has a lot of trust in us as well.
Coach, they have two guys that are power transfers. You coach Martin here. Knowing that, is it harder to kind of defensively fool those guys because they've seen a lot through their experiences, coming into situations?
Well, I think there's really good coaches at all levels, and I'm sure they're being coached up there well now. You can see that, but I think anybody that's experienced as they are and has gone up against the level of competition they've gone against certainly helps them. You can see them. I mean, they're just old guys that are poised, and they certainly have ability, and I think that's the biggest thing that stands out. And like I said, I know a year ago. I forgot really how terrific their numbers were on defense a year ago, and I think a lot of that. Again, I don't take anything away from, but our league was a league that really struggled offensively a year ago, but there was a really good set of receivers there that were there. Some holdover guys. I'm sure they're excited too, because they got guys that can get them the ball, and had an influx of a bunch of offensive linemen. I think maybe all 5 starters are transfer guys, so they filled in the pieces around them, but you can tell they're coached up now. They got a good plan, good system. They know what they're doing, and they've moved the ball really against everybody. Doing a good job in the run game too.
For Jakeith and Joshua, I know it's family weekend this weekend. Are you guys expecting a lot of your family to be in the building? What kind of excitement comes with family weekend and students having people everywhere and maybe a pretty big home crowd?
I'm pretty excited because I think I have a lot of family coming down as well. I mean, considering I stay an hour and a half away, so I feel like it's not hard of a drive for them to come. And I'm pretty excited to see how big the crowd is from all the students and their families coming to the game. So pretty excited.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a little bit farther than Keith, but not that much. I'm like 4 hours, so I should have a good amount of people there. I'm just excited for like all the students and all their families come and see the turnout.
Awesome. And Coach, for you, I know there's a potential that the game this weekend will be broadcasted on Palmetto Sports Network, just reaching kind of a bigger audience on TV there as well. Kind of what does that mean to have a big audience at home and, you know, a big audience maybe on the airwaves too?
Well, I mean, I think anything you get like that helps your program. You know, gets the Furman brand out there. You know, I'd certainly love to see more of them in the stadium. So hopefully, you know, historically it's been a really good weekend. I mean, we were at a Sanford, had a really good crowd in there. That's what they had going on last weekend. So hoping to have a great crowd here this week, and I know our kids will be excited if we can get that done.
Clay, you and I talked about this a bit on the the pregame interview before Sanford, and I think it's worth revisiting now. Coaches in this particular age of college football having to be able and willing to adapt with the times and knowing how much you love running the football and how that has not come along maybe the way you'd wanted to, but you've got the talented wide receiver group. You've got a quarterback who's playing very, very well right now. I know it's not exactly Air Hendricks as far as the mindset goes, but just talk about adjusting to what's working and how you've had to make those adjustments.
Well, I like to win. You know, and so I think everybody, you know, the old saying about take what people give you. And so, yeah, it's just a different era. I mean, you watch games, it's hard to run the football. And I really think probably the better true running football teams are guys with true dual threat guys at the quarterback position, okay? And then there's always the balance. You know, does he throw it well enough to do things you want to do? You know, Coach Roper has a great little saying. You know, we talk about quarterbacks and recruiting quarterbacks. He says, you know, you can hide their feet, but you can't hide their arm. And you know, if the guy can't make throws, it is hard to move the football. You know, unless you're going to turn it into an option type. You know, run your quarterback, and now you're going to, you know, how many guys are you going to take to get through the season with? So, I think that's just the nature of, you know, you see that in the NFL, and I think certainly it's trickled down to our level as well. But man, when you don't have a, you know, maybe certainly helps to have a veteran group up front, certainly be really talented running back, and I think we have those. So which gives me hope we're going to get better. I think what I've had to change is what my standards are. I don't really have standards, but you know, I can remember, I mean, literally here when I was a player here, if we didn't rush for 300 yards, and we were not an option football team. We ran some option. It was a disappointment. That's just totally unrealistic. You know, you look at some of the rushing numbers a year ago. So I want to be balanced, and I don't know what that quite means 50-50, but I want to have the ability to run it and throw it. I'd like to see us run it better than we are. I think we're doing some really good things in the passing game. And again, get the ball to your best players. And right now, a lot of our best players are some of those guys out there catching passes. So we'll do what we need to do.
Coach, a couple of weeks ago I was driving in, and it's about 3 hours before the game, and I saw you walking across the parking lot by yourself. Do you have any game day rituals that you adhere to or do anything?
No, I really don't. You know, I really don't. You know, we if we're playing it, which most of our home games now have been at 2:00. You know, so you know, we generally eat. We generally have our walkthrough meetings 4 hours before, and then we follow right into meetings. Now, I like to be over here maybe an hour before that gets started, but not a whole lot of just true rituals. And some you know, we have recruits coming in. Sometimes there's something involved with that. And I have family here too, you know, most weeks, but not a whole lot. You know, sometimes it's nice to have a little peace and quiet in the morning before everything gets rolling on Saturday.
Coach, how hard is it to kind of focus on the big picture after a game like that where you won by 18 on the road, but you didn't have the best fourth quarter, and like to kind of just put things in perspective to like say that like that was your most lopsided road win since 2022. Even the 23 team didn't win a game by that much on the road. So
yeah, and you know, I told our players when I came back here as a head coach, and I've been here, and Hunter would know this. I was around here a bunch of years where you just took winning for granted. and you're supposed to win, and you're supposed to win by this amount, and you're supposed to be, and winning's hard. It is. You hear that. People don't like to hear people. It is hard to win a football game. The amount of stuff that goes into that. And so, one thing I've said since I've been here, and I tell them, we celebrate wins around here. And, we'll go watch the tape and we'll learn from it. Got to be better. And, I like to play a little better there in the fourth quarter. And a lot of times it's a few little things. I think there's some great teachable moments. We talked about the situational football. The same thing with defensively. We get they're more or less in a 2-minute drive, and they want to throw a 3-yard completion. And we want to go try to make some play on the ball when we all just let him catch it and tackle him. And the game's going to end. The next thing you know, it's a 35-yard run, after catch. So, again, I just try to stay off the peaks and out of the valleys, because those are weeks when you think you played really well and you go back and watch it. There's some of that, and then there's times you think you played really poorly and you go back and it's kind of not that way either. So, I don't know. I just try to be consistent in my message. We just, how we practice. I got after our guys a little bit last week. I just felt like we were doing some things at practice that we needed to do better. I thought we were practicing pretty good, but there's just some things that go along with just how we manage things and do things at practice. And I let it be known. I don't think I do that a lot, but I like how they responded. I think the message is huge. I just heard these two guys have two guys that coach them that do a phenomenal job of that. Drew Dudzik, just demanding yet fun with those guys and energy, and then Kevin and Dwayne Vaughn, what those guys have done, because really Josh has kind of had both guys coaching him. And so heck, man, it's too much work not to go have fun, enjoy it, and enjoy the bus ride home. Sunday comes around, we can get to watching the tape and worry about the next week.
And kind of a fun one, you guys have Devin Hester Jr. on your team, but he's not related to Devin Hester? Is that kind of like, but he's in the return game too.
No, in fact, I got asked, I think, for the 45th time on Saturday about that. I've been asked by everybody from every pro scout to high school coach to opposing coach. But yeah, it does come up quite a bit.
I was going to say, does it kind of make for some jokes in the locker room, anything like that?
I'm not in the locker room in there a lot, so there may be a little bit of that, yeah.
Maybe something that all of you can address, because the fans see what happens on Saturday, and they know that you practice during the week. But there are things that go on behind the scenes from a time standpoint, and from the other things that happen that can affect a football team, and people don't understand that. I come back over here Sunday, you guys are already here, you're in a big team meeting in here, you're already working, less than 24 hours after wrapping up that win. You're putting in that kind of time. What Coach Vaughn and his wife have been through in the last 3+ weeks with their little son, who thankfully is fine and is home now. Just things that people don't understand that go on behind the scenes that can affect individuals and teams, and yet you're expected to find a way to plow through it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Dan. Certainly Cooper was doing well. That was a first-time parents. That was a trying time for a few weeks. And I wasn't here Sunday. I was at George Quarles' mother's funeral.
Right.
And George, who great friend of mine, Furman guy, certainly coached here, was at East Tennessee State, and I got the news of that on Friday, and it was just something I felt like I wanted to do and be at. And certainly they don't need me here to be able to manage a practice, and great job of those guys managing that. So, there's all kinds of things, things that, and a lot of things you don't even know about. Yeah, it's just like I said, it's I think football helps you with that stuff. As I've said, football and life, they are so eerily similar. The challenges that you go through, and the ups and downs, and the hard times and the good times, and but yeah, I think it's certainly great to have. We got 118 players on our team, and then we're out there today at practice. There's probably 150 to 60 people. When you're talking about staff and student workers, and so we have a pretty good support system right there too.
And just quickly before we wrap it up for both of the players, and Keith, I'll start with you. All of those circumstances that have really nothing to do with what goes on the field, sometimes it can tear a locker room apart. Sometimes it can bring a locker room together. Not that anything like that has happened here necessarily overly dramatic, but there are those things that people don't see. How do you manage that, and why is this team such a close unit?
A way we manage it is a saying that Coach Novo has is leave your coat at the door and just have that mindset, just be ready. And another thing I like about being here is the brotherhood. Like, everybody is here for each other no matter what we're going through, and just everybody you can talk to about what's going on in life, and they'll be there to help you out. So
Yeah, and I mean, like Keith said, it's the leave your coat at the door mentality that we have here, and and we're a much tighter team than we were last year, because I mean, we played all last season, and then we probably had a total of 3 weeks out of the year that we weren't together. So we're just a lot tighter this year, and the locker room is just a lot tighter.
All right, Coach, final thought before we wrap it up?
No, just certainly excited to be at home this week, and I'll be a heck of a game, heck of an environment, heck of a challenge, for us. And we're getting ready to we're fixing to run the gamut here. When you look at our league and all these conference games that are going on, and I mean, you watch that East Tennessee Mercer game, and I think you're going to see a lot of games like that in the next few weeks, month. And so, and I think it's like that most years. And so, we'll find out if we're up to the challenge. But we're certainly excited to get a chance to go play. Play again a really good East Tennessee team this week.
All right, just a reminder, it is family weekend here at Furman for the ETSU game. The kickoff is at 2 p.m. It'll be an ESPN Plus telecast and possibly Palmetto Sports and Entertainment Network. We'll find that out later on in the week. From a radio standpoint on the Fan Upstate, the Pepsi countdown to kickoff will begin at 12:30. Furman and ETSU, the Paladins' second SoCon game of the season. Our thanks, as always, to head coach Clay Hendricks, Joshua Stone King, Jakeith Hamilton, and for all of us here at Furman, I'm Dan Scott saying God bless you, and so long, everybody.